I'm sure by now you're more than familiar with the infamous reputation that this particular game has garnered. Cramped hands, insane completion requirements, absurd hidden collectibles, brutal repetition, and so on. Knowing just how masochistic Crash 4 is had admittedly piqued my interest. I managed to get all the platinum trophies and platinum time relics in the Insane trilogy, so surely people were hyping up the difficulty of acquiring 106%, and this really wouldn't be all that bad. Right? I'm on a journey to platinum as many iconic games as I possibly can, and we're kicking things off with Crash 4, It's About Time. What have I got? Whoa! Now I had a relatively simple strategy going forward. Earn every trophy and collectible as they appear in order to mitigate the amount of backtracking I would have to do later on. This way each level is still fresh in my mind and would hopefully have an additional effect of cutting back on how many times I would have to replay a level to acquire all the gems and relics in them. Just know you earn 3 gems for collecting 80% of the Wumpa fruit in a stage, 1 for breaking all the boxes, 1 that's hidden within the level itself, and lastly 1 for dying less than 3 times. But we'll get to that later. Kicking things off in level 1, I immediately got a trophy for spinning this television set 4 times, another for finishing the stage without dying, and 1 more for breaking all the boxes without dying. Level 2 also had another trophy waiting for us in the form of a colored gem, and this is exactly why I wanted to obtain everything I could within each world. If you collect all the colored gems as they show up, you'll never have to backtrack to any of the previous levels to unlock new routes. So I got the red gem, which gave me a trophy, ran away from an eldritch god, and unlocked another trophy for meeting our first reality-bending mask, Lonnie Lowly. The first world actually made it seem like it wasn't going to be that big of a deal to complete this game, especially being as short and straightforward as it was. Little did I know. Before moving on to World 2, I changed my character skin, which netted me a trophy, and bless the devs for actually providing an old school method of unlocking costumes instead of predatory microtransactions. It felt good to see my efforts actually rewarded for going out of my way to collect everything. Not to mention, this was published by Activision, which makes it extra surprising I wasn't being milked for everything I was worth. Anyways, I decided to replay a previous level as Coco in order to earn the trophy Ladies First, and then hopped over to World 2 to continue my journey. What have I got? A real grind. And almost instantly, without any sort of notable build-up, Crash 4 reveals its true colors. I guarantee you will miss at least 2 boxes on your first playthrough without a guide, because Crash 4 loves to hide collectibles in places that you would never think to check, and in areas that seem completely inaccessible. Once I accidentally noticed this first hidden crate, my stomach sank. The simple thought of, oh no, echoed in my mind. This had to be the reason why this game was so notorious. The amount of time I spent replaying a level just to find one feckin' hidden box nearly gave me a stroke. And then it dawned on me. I would have to memorize where all these boxes were without dying, because guess what? That previously aforementioned trophy wasn't just a one-off thing. You have to perfect every single level for another one. That's 38 perfect relics. And the number of said breakable boxes was only going up, sometimes into ridiculous amounts. And on top of all of that, the difficulty curve was also steadily going up with each new level. There's definitely a noticeable increase from World 1 to World 2, and it makes sense because as much as people want to say Crash is a series geared towards kids, this game is made for old school fans who are now adults, which means it's going to scale for adults. It expects absolute gaming finesse from you in order to complete everything. Pro tip, if you ever see a tower of boxes, always jump off the topmost crate first and then double jump. Chances are there's a hidden one just out of view where you can't pan the camera in order to see it. Getting back on track, while I was noticing a jump in difficulty, it still wasn't anything grueling or unmanageable, and as I progressed through World 2, I got a bunch more trophies. Like 1 for telling Engine to shut up, 1 for hitting a bunch of musical barrels, 1 for finding the Emerald Gem, which was honestly pretty cute, and another for defeating Engine. What have I got? Moving on to World 3, the cheeky hidden box and gem placements were starting to become rather questionable. But besides that minor hiccup, it wasn't too bad trying to go for everything. I mean, yeah, it was a little tedious having to replay a level 1 billion times in order to get everything, but I've done worse in other games, so I think I'll be able to... Oh, we've got another character to play as. Ah, this Bandicoot Bakery is Tana, and she comes with her own levels to perfect and gems to collect. I feel like this whole idea would have been executed a lot better if I wasn't essentially retreading levels I had already completed with Crash and Coco. You know what I mean? Why couldn't she have her own set of unique levels without piggybacking off the main characters? I suppose I can't be too upset though, because after finishing one of her timelines, I was able to get another trophy. So I wrap up World 3 by fighting this weird, random mini-boss that shows up out of nowhere and pick up a Kano for yet another trophy. What have I got? We're starting to get in some bullshit here. One of the first few trophies I had to go for in this world was related to the blue gem, which if you've played Crash 2 you know is obtained by beating the level it resides in without breaking any boxes. Sounds relatively simple on paper, but Dragon On is one of the most appropriate level titles I've seen in a while. Not only is it decently long with plenty of hazardous obstacles, but if you tag a box at any point, which includes checkpoints mind you, or die, you're sent all the way back to the beginning. The tower of boxes blocking the only entrance really should have tipped me off that the devs weren't going to play nice here. So yeah, the level kinda sucks for what it's asking you to do. Oh, before I forget, you also have to use a Kano's spinning death tornado that destroys everything in sight to make precise jumps. So that's fun. It's probably going to take you a while to get this gem. You could say, it drags on. After about 40 minutes or so, I was able to snag this trophy thanks to a bonus level that you can use as a checkpoint, and I also managed to earn another trophy by taking out my frustration on these gongs. Little did I know I should have saved that for the very next level. Off balance. While I did earn a trophy right away for spinning the strange tree at the beginning, this level has some of the most ridiculous hidden boxes in the entire game. You will not find them. You will not. Here, pause the screen and see if you can find it. I'll wait. Give up? Yeah, that's because it's right here. What the f***? So I go through absolute hell trying to get all the hidden boxes without dying, avoiding a copious amount of environmental perils while switching between multiple masks, and finally managed to complete it after wasting over an hour of my life. Yay. After all of that, I made it to Embryo's lair and beat his ass for a well-deserved trophy at this point. Returning to the overworld, we can actually see Embryo fleeing from us, dropping more gems in the process. And unlocking something called inverted levels. As if I wasn't replaying each level enough in order to collect 6 clear gems while perfecting them. Now the game wants me to do that all over again while flipping the maps and making my eyes bleed with some ugly filters. Honestly, some of the inverted levels are actually really cool, but most don't do anything, other than cause eye strain. So now instead of having to collect just a paltry 228 clear gems for full completion, I have to earn an additional 228, totaling 456 feckin' gems in order to see the true ending. Oh, I'm starting to feel it, Mr. Krabs. At least they showed some mercy by not requiring inverted perfect relics as well, because I would have actually cried if I had to earn one for both versions. So after that wonderful revelation, you can probably guess what came next. That's right, I went back to every single level I already played and collected all the inverted gems in them, while also getting trophies for beating an inverted level for the first time, and for defeating an inverted boss. After doing all of that, I can finally make my way to World 5. What have I got? Bird up! What the fuck? The game is having a laugh at this point, though I'm failing to find any of the humor in this. I really want to know who hurt the individual that hid some of these gems in boxes. Because, yeah, I get it, hidden means they should be somewhat tough to find. Although I'm not sure putting them in areas that were previously considered out of bounds is necessarily fair. On the flip side, you do earn a pretty easy trophy by spinning this dumpster. So clearly it's a fair trade-off. Oh, look at that, we can play as Dingodile now. You know what that means. Yay! Dingodile is pretty goated though. He's basically a super chat and should be in every game from here on out. Best character. And he even gets us a couple trophies by destroying these bat signs and home cooking and spinning some cannons, so I see this as an absolute win. You know it's not though? The next 2 levels, Run It By You and No Dilly-Dallying. Just why? These levels are already pretty tough to complete on their own thanks to this auto-scroll section where you're riding a food boat. But then you have to carefully maneuver yourself while surfing backwards in order to reliably hit all these boxes moving downstream without missing any or dying. And the inverted level makes it even harder because it's one of the few instances where they actually change something about the gameplay, which in this case is speeding everything up. By this point I think you get it. It's a major slog going for every box, every gem, every perfect relic, so to save some time, I'm just going to say it was incredibly tough to get everything from here on out. Hundreds upon hundreds of boxes per level, janky ice physics, time manipulation, anti-gravity, auto-scrollers, insane platforming, it had it all. Along the way I earned a bunch of story-related and miscellaneous trophies, and notorious levels like Crash Landed and Toxic Tunnels had their way with me. I can safely say I understand why people were complaining about those levels now. But by some miracle, after 40 hours of grueling gameplay, I finally managed to earn the last perfect relic, netting me the elusive Perfectionist trophy. And honestly, I've never been so proud to earn a virtual congratulations. Man, this shit was so tough. What? You thought we were done after all that? No. That was only part 1 of 3. We still got 2 more sections to go. I want to vomit. If for some reason you've been playing along, you've probably noticed various VHS tapes scattered about. These are actually bonus levels that are only unlocked if you manage to make it to said VHS without dying. There are 21 of these bonus levels in total, and I need to earn a platinum grade on every single one for a rare trophy. Thankfully 99% of them are pretty easy, but at this point I was starting to feel the burn, so instead of trying to figure out every single one by myself, I would just look up a guide whenever I got stuck. Honestly, couldn't be arsed. I mean, can you blame me though? At this point, I had already done so much in the game and it's demanding even more from me. So after a couple hours, I get through all the levels and earn 2 trophies, one for playing 1 VHS tape and then, like I said, the other for completing them all with a platinum grade.
There goes another one. We should really get that escape hatch sealed.
That just leaves the infamous platinum relics left. I actually didn't think they were all that bad. In fact, the requirements seemed pretty reasonable to me. Dev relics, on the other hand, are a completely different story. They are cracked out of their mind, though thankfully, those aren't necessary for completion percentage because, damn. I don't know what demon they summoned at Toys for Bob to set those records, but I hope they've banished it back to the deepest pits of hell where it belongs. I gotta be honest here, I thought the insanely perfect relics were way harder to achieve than the platinum times. There were really only a couple levels that I genuinely struggled with when doing the time trials, the more notable one being Toxic Tunnels. Not only do you have to do this long-ass gauntlet for the insanely perfect relic that requires all the color gems to complete, but the platinum relic is also a giant pain in the ass due to how many hazards are strewn about. This level just sucks the soul out of you, man. It is without a doubt the jankiest, most unforgiving piece of shit in the entire series. It was legitimately starting to annoy me due to all the crap I had to endure. I would die atop minecarts I thought were safe. Parts of the level would teleport. Sometimes I'd randomly slip off the rollers when most of the time it's safe to spin across them. Sometimes I could jump off the pole right away to gain precious seconds. Sometimes I couldn't. It's just so inconsistent and maddening. Honestly, that's probably the thing that's going to bother you the most if you opt to complete Crash 4. Levels don't maintain the same timings on every run like they do in the Insane Trilogy, and this can obviously be super frustrating. If you just stop and look at the devs' ghosts, they're clearly running on a very specific setup where all the planets have aligned, creating a magical pathway akin to Moses parting the Red Sea. And then you're stuck with the part that collapses in on itself. This is especially true when playing any of the Cortex levels. This character is totally fine when it comes to taking things slow, but when you need to go fast, good luck. Though, like I said earlier, Toxic Tunnels was really the only one that took me literal hours to complete. The rest weren't nearly as bad, even with the imperfect timings. It's probably because I had played each level over and over and over again in order to obtain the insanely perfect relic, which inadvertently carried over to the time trials. So after about 70 hours in total, I managed to finally earn my last platinum relic, netting me the faster than sound trophy. This unlocked the ability to view the 106% ending, which upon doing so got me the overachiever trophy. And finally, after all that grind, the Master Marsupial Platinum Trophy. It felt so fucking good to finally finish this game, even if I was completely drained from having my skills put through the ringer. I have to say, besides the addition of inverted levels, I think Crash 4 does achievements right. But then again, I also suffer from brainworms, which is why I even do stuff like this in the first place. I've always been one to prefer being tested than being told to collect X amount of things or do X thing X amount of times. Those always amount to a tedious slog that doesn't really highlight any notable player skill besides patience, obviously. You know, I've seen a lot of people complain about the completion requirements, and while I do agree there's absolutely too many gems, and some things are a bit redundant, I personally believe that the devs made the right call here with everything else. It's a true testament of skill, and because of that, it's one of my most prized platinums yet. It was absolutely a grueling grind, yet, at the end of the day, I'm glad I went through with it. With having done all of the Insane Trilogy, CTR, and now Crash 4, I look forward to moving on to a new series to trophy hunt in, and I think I know just the one to do so. Until then, thank you all for stopping by and watching, I really appreciate it, and hopefully, I'll see you all on the next one. Bye-bye.